Sure, why not? Alright, next chapter. New chapter. However, I do want to see if I can adjust one quick thing. The speed of the text, is that possible? So I see volume settings. Check up on your name tag collection. I see nothing really else, unless it's also in volume settings. Which is not. Okay, well, text will be that slow then. Blood Drive, Chapter 1. Returning. Oh, right. So I forgot to show a picture of what was photoshopped, so I'll do so right now, actually. So to do so, I have to save. Let's just put this on the desktop for the time being. Actually, let's put it on the desktop in a folder called Corpse Party Blood Drive Photoshop. So I'll just put CP Photoshop. Okay, open here, save here. Take this, save here, and a 3, 2, 1. There we go. All right. Oops. Add image. Browse. And where did I put it? I put it on desktop, obviously. Bam. There we go. Of course. Three Spoopy, 5 me. Okay, good one. And the next one that I saw that was in the chat was an old one, actually. This was, I think, during the... What the hell? Why is that so gigantic? Hang on. Fit the screen, please. Thank you. Yeah, that was from the old Danganronpa stream, which actually was done during the same time. I was around the same time, actually. I was living out of an arcade. Not joking. I was living out of an arcade, and I also streamed Corpse Party Book of Shadows, and I guess it kind of overlapped. Makes sense. Makes tons of sense, right? A day passed since the events of oh my god, here we go, at Shimorenjaku South Apartments. Shimorenjaku? Yeah, probably it. This was to be a significant turning point for me, and Mochida might have been part of it from the start. Except that fate seemed to have other plans for him.
Kuon sensei, 今日は大事な用があって。
ダメ。サトシ君、昨日の大気の小テスト、ちょっと残念な点数だったでしょ?
Like an owner training a puppy, Kuan gave me a strong glare and held up her index finger in reprimand.
今から1時間、私の授業に集中しなさい。そうしたら、次の小テストも解けるようになるから。
Yeah, the Danganronpa streams are really fun. I still think about them even today, actually.
先生って英語科でしょ? 大気なんて専門外じゃ。
一生懸命教えるからできるよ。
How long has it been on hiatus for? Man. Whenever it released. She seemed a little taken aback by that remark, puffing up her cheeks like a chipmunk in protest.
いや、先生。クオン先生って、ユイ先生そっくりだな。ごめんなさい。
Looking both amused and guilty, Mochida tried to get up and leave his seat in one swift motion, but he was quickly and easily caught, lifted up, and forcefully sat back down. What a forceful teacher. Why? Who does that? Are there rules against this? Miss Kuan was smiling. She was actually enjoying this.
なんだこの先生。
Miss Kuan was only the slightest bit taller than Mochida. This did make her taller than the average, but her arms were small and frail. There seemed to be no way she could possibly have lifted someone of his build. This whole situation was rather bewildering for him, and he had made no attempt to hide his confusion.
さあ、始めるよ。
I mean, if a teacher lifted me and she was as cute as that lady right there, I would let it happen too. But then that teacher must be really, really buff.
はい。
He had no other option. Apparently, he was going to be studying algebra for the next hour, come hell or high water. Oh boy, algebra. Meanwhile, at a location called a local cafe, there we go, near school, Kishinuma and I were sitting down to speak of Aiko Niwa, the informant who led my friends to the previous night. What the hell?
うん。大丈夫？お腹でも痛いの？
I responded with a dismissive gesture while continuing to rub my abdomen with my other hand. Ever since the previous night, I'd had this constant unbearable urge to pee.
なんだろう。昨日怖い思いして過呼吸が続いたから体がおかしいのかな。ずっと膀胱が膨らんでる気がする。
You know, if you just want to go ahead. Nothing's really stopping you. I mean, the cafe is not as dark as my house, so I mean, there's nothing creepy about it, right? Yeah, nothing creepy whatsoever.
何から話そうかしら。
Aiko tilted her head and stared at me, looking up and down, seemingly judging my every mannerism, my every movement. It was making me feel rather self-conscious. I covered my abdomen with both hands as if guarding it from her gaze.
昨日はありがとうございました。いいえ、大したことはしていないわ。如月学園って案外広いので、岸沼くんたちを探すのに少し手間取ってしまったわ。
You know, speaking of self-conscious, you know, how do I describe this? So, some headsets and some mics are very sensitive.
New data!
And you can hear the person breathing like this. Like that, right? So, I'm trying to, on purpose, do my very best not to be very loud about that because it's really awkward. I remember my friend, his name is Pavo, right? And he was playing against a crap, I'm trying to remember. He was playing against Marn. And he told Marn, he's so stupid. He asked Marn a question, and the question mid-match was, when you do your combos, do you breathe in or do you breathe out? And the moment he asked Marn that question, Marn dropped his combo. So stupid. What a messed up way to win a game.
岸沼くん、あなたたちって天神小学校の生還者よね。
So, you know, there are things that we try to keep in the back of our minds, like, do I breathe very loudly on stream? But I'm trying to take that out of my head because I don't want to think about it. We pledged never to discuss heavenly hosts with anyone else, which we always assumed would be an easy promise to keep. But now, casually and out of blue, here we were.
なんであんたそのことを。
あなたたち死後の世界に接してきたでしょう。通常人間には身につかないオーラの色をしているわ。私には見えるの。
Both Kishinuma and I were speechless. I just sat there staring at my palm, subconsciously trying to see my aura. I guess Aiko was smiling at us triumphantly.
愛子さんは霊能関係の情報屋で、ナホさんのお友達なんですよね。ええ、ナホちゃんに天神小学校の情報を提供したのは私。
Hang on, one more time? Wow. The true source of the deaths and subsequent erasures that turned our lives into a living nightmare was a Sachiko Ever After ritual posted on Naho's cult blog. I've been a fan of Naho for quite some time, so when I saw that, I knew I had to try it out with my friends from class 2-9, and as a result, half of those friends were now gone.
ナホちゃんがキビキ先生のために霊能探偵をやっていたことは知っているわよね。は 幸せの幸子さんの情報が掲載されてから失踪されたことも。私はね、心霊スポットや霊能関係の情報を集めて、それを欲しがる人に有償で提供してきた。報酬はお金、もしくは私の興味をそそる霊具の類。相手によってふっかけ方も変えるけれど、まあギブアンドテイクよね。向こうは情報が欲しい、私はお金と霊具が欲しい。
Physically, Aiko was a very attractive young lady, but personality-wise, the jury was still out. Her words were calculated and emotionless. Her true intentions a mystery.
だから私は情報屋をやっているの。なほちゃんもいいお客さんだったわ。あの子が最後に買ったのが天神小学校の情報。なほちゃん、これで響先生の小説がなんとか賞を取れるってすごくはしゃいでた。ねえ、教えてくれる？あなたたちの閉じ込められたあの異空間になほちゃんはいた？なほさんは響先生と一緒に亡くなっていました。
I looked down as I answered. Despite everything she'd done, the memory of Naho's passing was still painful for me. She'd become one of the heavenly host's lost souls and gone completely berserk. In the end, I was the one who finished her off.
そう、やっぱりね。
Aiko seemed completely unaffected by this revelation. Her tone remained even and her expression cold and distant. Honestly, I'd had about enough of her by this point. She was devoid so much of empathy, it was almost offensive. I was genuinely starting to get pissed off.
平気なんですか？残念だと思うわ。でも予想はついていたから、わざわざ取り乱す必要もないでしょ。
Kishinuma continued to stare intently at Aiko with his own brand of cold, emotionless eyes. He was oddly quiet, though. His anger was palpable. I clenched my fist.
じゃ、この子はおまじないを一緒に行ったと思うんだけど、あっちにはいたかしら。
Aiko showed us a photo of a girl named Sayaka. Oh, wait. Sayaka.
いえ、
Sayaka.
Ate
There we-
naka
oh, yeah, there we
sumimasen.
go. All these Japanese names, man. Can't we just change it to something else? No, I'm just messing with you. Aiko's expression was still unfaltering. You could carve it in stone. I couldn't take it anymore. I had to say something.
なほさんのことお客さんだなんて、そんなの友達って言わないと思います。
My voice is breaking with rage. But even if that hadn't been the case, my face must have read like a book. This icy bitch may have only had one expression, but I sure didn't.
あら、あなたは客って言葉に対して随分と偏見を持っているのね。取引を行う以上、私はそこに最大の誠意とクオリティを提供する。つまりそれがパートナーとしての信用で、フレンドシップにも負けないものだと思っているけれど、そんなこと。
I had no idea what to say. It seemed like Aiko was used to this sort of thing. Her response felt carefully rehearsed, like a sales pitch. Finally, Kishinuma broke his silence.
あんたよ、昨日篠崎を助けてくれたことは感謝するけどよ、金やなんかの見返りのためにそんなろくでもない情報を拡散させるなんて旗迷惑だと思わねえのか？
情報は情報よ。それ自体に罪はないわ。道具と同じ。それをどう使うかは使い手の問題でしょ。その気になれば、その辺にあるコップでも人は殺せてしまうのよ。
なもん、詭弁じゃねえかよ。
あなたもそう思う？あゆみちゃん。
Well, information is neutral. Could be good, could be bad. I guess. Oh, let me think about it. It's kind of like the stream. This stream could be good, it could be bad. All it really depends on is if by the end of the stream things start dying or they start living. So I don't think there's much of a problem, really.
愛子さん、ごめんなさい。私はあなたの考え方嫌いです。無責任だと思います。
Her expression remained calm and collected overall, but her eyes blinked several times in rapid succession. It was the first outward sign of emotion we'd seen from her.
やれやれ、ひどい嫌われようね。慣れてるけど悲しいわ。
Aiko quickly shrugged off her sudden outburst and was back to her usual icy self.
天神症は俺らがぶっ壊してきたからいいけどよ。
An awkward tension filled the room, or at least our table.
じゃ、本題に入りましょうか。私があなたたちに近づいた理由、伝えたいことについて。
Aiko produced a thick, hardbound file folder from the light blue bag she'd brought with her. She opened it to reveal several documents of a questionable nature. Among them were what looked to be a family tree, as well as numerous pages featuring black magic symbology or images that looked like tree branches.
黒魔術の文字対応表。篠崎家の家系図。少しショッキングなことを伝えるわね。
Aiko was looking directly into my eyes now. Her gaze was fixed, intense, and unblinking.
さっき岸沼くんが言ったことだけれど、間違いよ。
あ？何がだよ。
天神小学校は壊れてなどいない。今もまだ存在し続けているのよ。これを見て。
Aiko placed a black and white photo on the table. It wasn't the clearest of the pictures, but there was no doubt that the location it depicted was Heavenly Host Elementary. In the picture, a small girl could be seen standing in one of those all too familiar hallways, holding a hatchet in her right hand.
天神小学校。
なんだよ、これ。
やっぱり。これは私が念写したものよ。力が足りなくて少し不鮮明ではあるけれど、今現在のあの空間、天神小学校の様子、一体どういうことなんですか？
I can't even describe what was going through my head at the moment. I felt like I was about to burst. Aiko, however, remained calm as ever while recounting her story.
順を追って説明するわね。まず、昨日の例の赤い箱だけれど、開けると、このレーグが出てきたの。
The box I found on Makina's futon. Inside it were apparently two stones resembling magatama, comma-shaped ceremonial objects from Japanese antiquity. Also included in the box were several more roughly hewn stones, as well as a lining along the edges consisting of crumpled pieces of thin white paper.
残念ながら箱の中でほとんど割れていたけれど、この一組は無事だったわ。
They looked almost like a demented version of yin and yang symbols, puzzle pieces that were clearly built to be slotted together. Aiko now held one stone in each hand and was motioning them toward one another as if to drive that point home.
レーグというのはね、簡単に言えば死者の思いが込められたもののことで、物に閉じ込められた霊、またはその生前の記憶が持つ者に永遠と泣き言を語りかけてくる愉快なものよ。
I don't think I would like to have one of those objects in my house, or to be holding one.
私はこう見えて無類のレーグコレクターでもあるの。
Yeah, exactly. What kind of person would you have to be to really enjoy that? I guess an occult fan. I mean, there are people who are like that. But I'm not one of them. I'm sorry. Kishinuma and I briefly looked at Kishinuma and I briefly locked eyes again. You know, I would be a terrible voice actor. We shared the same look of bewilderment. Aiko's personality was much more twisted than either of us had initially perceived it to be.
この子の意志を読もうとするとね、呪わしい声と一緒に おさげの少女や廃校の風景が見えてきたのよ。で、気になったからこのカメラに。
At this, she produced an old instant camera and placed it on the table in front of us.
私の念を写してみたの。それがその写真。私がこのレーグを使ってその時の今現在を念写したものよ。過去や未来の時間を超えた念写は私にはできないから。
I examined the photograph in greater detail, and a chill ran down my spine. There was absolutely no denying what it depicted. I was actually shaking.
篠崎幸子を失ったあの学校は私たちが逆落ちで脱出した際に崩壊したはず。でも寸前のところでとどまったってところかしら。私に語りかけてくる声の主がまだいるのかもね。
I motioned toward the photo in my hand.
例えば写真の女の子とか誰かしらね、この子。
The answer was beginning to dawn on me. A sudden cold sensation exploded through my body and I shuddered, as if trying to shake off the encroaching realization.
くそ、あの地獄みたいな場所がまだ存在してるってのかよ。
Kishinuma leaned forward. The conversation was clearly beginning to engage him a lot more than it had been.
その天神小学校、いえ、学校の形をしたあの異空間だけれど、ナホちゃんに紹介した手前、私も気になって調べていたの。あの異空間の正体はね、涅槃という死後の世界に近い磁場なのよ。普通はこの世とは別の次元に存在するものなのだけれど。涅槃？ええ。篠崎義恵については知っているわよね。はい。篠崎の家、義恵の診療所に黒の本と呼ばれる魔導書、ブック・オブ・シャドウズがあったことも。はっ。はい。
Why? How could she have known about that? A million thoughts, a million questions are running through my head. I was speechless. All I could do was sit there and hear her out. That is a rather sudden transition. It was like a muffled scream, or a moan of agony. The sound you make when you want to make a sound, but are barely able to. That was a little more forceful, accompanied by thrashing. It caused the nearby table of light to fall over and roll along the ground.
あなた、落ち着いて、お願い。
This was Yoshie Shinozaki's clinic, and Yoshie herself was on top of her husband, holding him down with both her hands in a very lewd posture that the stream probably shouldn't be looking at and thinking of such things right now. To prevent Seiji from biting off his own tongue, he had been gagged with a towel, very kinky, needless to say. He wasn't looking particularly well either. Not far from where this was occurring, Sachiko stood aghast, trembling as she was watching her parents be in a very awkward position. Izanagi no Kami, who visits the underworld and beholds our foul spirits, guides us to the cleansing waters of the... I can't read this. Seiji, still collapsed on the floor, was clearly suffering. His body was bent into a most unnatural shape, and he was fervently clawing at his neck. That's kind of creepy. Sachiko's father screamed through his gag. Foam began frothing out of him. Ghostly images of Shinozaki women from ages past smiled down upon the event from the ceiling, laughing and mocking his suffering. Worse still, some of the women had traditionally blackened teeth, giving their smiles an unintentionally sinister edge. The atmosphere within the room was heavy, as if spirits occupied every empty corner, dancing and flitting about freely and joyously. Seiji's body sharply bent and began convulsing.
荒れませる腹井戸の狼たち。あなたしっかり。ああ、三親の御霊様、お願いです。連れて行かないでください。
Her great-grandmother, Seira, the head of the Shinozaki family, was among the black-teethed women laughing joyously at Seiji's suffering. His voice began to weaken, and his convulsions began to lose strength. Finally, the last spark of life had left his body. His eyes rolled back into his head, and all movement ceased.
お父さん、息してないよ。
Sachiko looked up, eyes glazed over with tears. Yoshie, too, was stricken with grief and despair.
霊能力者の血筋、篠崎の者と結婚した夫は必ず早々の死を遂げる。呪われた家の運命に抗えなかった義恵は、心ない者たちから守るよう篠崎の家に託されていた禁忌の本に手をつける。それが黒の本、ブック・オブ・シャドウズ。愛する者を失う、そのことを恐れるあまり黒魔術に頼ったの。まさに荒唐無稽でバカな話よね。義恵自身もすがれるものなら何でもいい程度にしか思っていなかったと思うわ。
Aiko, staring deeply into my eyes, seemed fishing for a reaction to her tale.
ところが
Excuse me.
まさか信じられないことが起こる。
Well, I guess the burp was a reaction. What kind of response would that be? Let me tell you about your bloodline, how your family, or your previous family, have died. Burp. I continued listening, unknowingly stroking the wound on my thigh, as unpleasant memories of my own foolish run-in with black magic resurfaced.
義恵の体に流れる篠崎の血筋、その強い霊力に想像もつかない何かが呼応してしまった。それは
I instantly knew what she was going to say.
義恵の術で本の中から呼び覚まされた何か。それは涅槃。
What is this game about? Well, the name is Corpse Party. So just from the name, it's a party held in New York once a year, and people from all over Japan go to New York just to celebrate the passing of loved ones. And to do so, they bring a bunch of previously used items that had murdered people, and they gather it in Times Central, and they throw it into a bonfire. And then all the stuff that had previously killed people burns up into ashes and rises into the sky, and it summons out a little girl called Sachiko. So Sachiko descends from the sky and then wreaks havoc in all of New York. And then she kills a bunch of people, and she sets a very bright rave party in the middle of the night. And then she plays music from her favorite DJ called DJ Darude. And everyone who's still alive in New York comes to the center, and they start dancing around a bonfire. That's the story of Corpse Party.
未来永劫、死者と共にいられる場所、死後の世界を切り取った空間がこの世に生まれてしまったの。
And Aiko is a previous survivor of the New York Corpse Party. She tries to grab people from Japan to invite them to America. And the problem with America is that it has a very bad image to people in Japan, especially young high school girls, because they think America is all about blood and violence. But in reality, it's about parties, raving, and girls descending from the sky.
ヨシエはもう半分正気を失っていたのね。一人娘の幸子を現世に残して、自分は夫の魂と共に生涯をそこで添い遂げようとした。
So I mean, like Feezy can attest to what I said. It's the truth. It happens every year. It's just that people don't want to really talk about it. You know, it's kind of like how you enjoy chick flicks, but you don't want to talk about it because it's kind of embarrassing. Even like chicks don't want to talk about it. Like I love The Notebook, but I don't tell people that. I mean, it's just something you keep down low. You know, you don't want to walk into class and when the icebreakers happen, you go like, "Yeah, my favorite movie is The Notebook." You don't say that. You say, "My favorite movie is Blade Runner," or "My favorite movie is Princess Mononoke." I guess that'll be kind of awkward, but yeah, I guess that works. No, I guess Ghibli films would be fine.
ところが、涅槃には意志があり、ヨシエの手でコントロールできるものではなかったの。
I knew that all too well. Just like Yoshie, I'd experienced my own tragic failure of black magic at the Shinosaki clinic.
黒魔術には障害反動がある。夫の魂はバラバラに飛散し、ヨシエの命も消えかけた。自分の愚かな行為を悔やみながら呼吸を止めようとしたその時、底なしに霊能力の強い一人娘幸子が涅槃を丸ごと体の中に飲み込んだの。幸子が
I've actually never watched The Notebook, so I'm just joking there, so don't worry. The poor girl collapsed to the floor, violently thrashing about as the weight of an entire dimension crushed her from the inside. This action had saved their mother's life, certainly, but death would have surely been preferable. Picking herself up, Yoshie rushed to her daughter's side in tears.
Sachiko!
So Corpse Party 1, Book of Shadows, Corpse Party Blood Drive, which is the one you're watching right now, and then I think Corpse Party 2 would be the order, something like that. So if you've seen the first Corpse Party, then you're perfectly fine to watch this. Both parent and child were bawling, pain mixing with relief mixing with pain again.
Damn Koopa's Kappa game too strong right now. Have some money, you filthy Kappa.
Thanks, Bionic. I appreciate the donation. What? Alright. I'll use that $5 donation to buy another coffee tomorrow. The little girl buried her face into Yoshi's bosom and just cried and cried. Yoshi crossed. What the fuck, man? you ruined the atmosphere. By this point, Sachiko's body had begun producing a dark blue aura. Thanks, Bionic. I appreciate it.
お母さんにはあなたがいるわ。もうあなたを置いていこうだなんて思わないから。
I mean, let's be honest here. I'm gonna be streaming this almost all night. My sleeping schedule is gonna be incredibly ruined, and hopefully not yours. But if you want to join me for this, go ahead and grab some coffee. Some type of caffeinated drink, I guess. Which kind of makes me feel in the same position as Ayumi. Because both she and I really need to use the restroom right now. Like, really need to go.
ヨシエを超えるほどの霊能力を持っていたのね。涅槃を丸ごと体内に封じ込めるなんてものすごいことよ。
Aiko took a big, noisy sip from her coffee mug.
当時、ほとんど最強の霊能者だったんじゃないかしら。まだほんの小さな子供だったけれど。でも、その幸子が死んでしまって。そう。保健医ヨシエの転落事故と同時に、幸子が行方不明になった。50年前のあの事件。 あれは
I'm not donating so you can waste my money on coffee. Canadian dollar sucks right now. Buy some fancy cup noodles.
Bionic, thank you for your donation. I do appreciate it.
やはりそうな
I
の
will get. You know, I already have cup of noodles in my house, dog.
校長が余計なことをしでかしたおかげで幸子の中に吸い込まれて封印されていた涅槃が復活し、あの異空間天神小学校が生まれてしまったのよ。
It's probably because the school was the site of Sachiko's violent demise that her nirvana took on its form.
ま、とはいえ復活した涅槃も資料として蘇った幸子の力で再び抑制されて、やっぱりその支配下に置かれていたようだけれど。幸子がいろんな力を
Star, I'm not buying a $3,000 vacuum. You know that already.
の影響だったのかしら。
I'll be honest though, I was looking for a vacuum cleaner to help clean my house a little more easier, a little more easy, and well, there are some very expensive vacuums out there. It was all starting to make sick sort of sense. The pieces were falling into place and painting an absolutely awful
New
picture.
data!
I shuddered to myself as I considered it.
現在はあなたたちが脱出の際に幸子を取り除いてしまったから、涅槃は再び暴走状態になっているのよ。なくなってしまえばよかったのに。
Actually, if you want to donate, tinyurl.com/FKO Koopa, because that's how your donation will show up on the stream. Otherwise, I wouldn't know. But just for your information, if you do really want to, I do appreciate it. Just do so during events that are not very, very critical. So, for example, if I'm being chased by a monster down a hallway, the last thing I want to hear is, Koopa, here's $5 to survive against this monster who's chasing your ass to try to kill you and stab you in the back. I hope you live. I mean, I guess that would be kind of appropriate, contextually correct, but, you know, I want to live.
さて、ここで少し突飛な話をするわよ。ついてきてね。
Yeah, I get a lot of weird people who pop by my house.
はい。
I mean, I'm pretty sure people have knocked on your door too and tried to sell you things, but I've had a person who tried to sell me a $3,000 vacuum. I'm not joking. I had a person who came to my house and said, "Do you want me to steam clean your carpets?" And I said, "This probably sounds too similar to that vacuum cleaner guy." I've had religious folks pop by my house, which I've given them my time of day because I'm always curious about religion.
死んだ友達にまた会い
That was
たい
another one. I had no, that's usually the extent of it. It's people trying to sell things or religious folks. That's pretty normal. Oh, also I've had Girl Scout cookies every once in a while.
涅槃で死んだ霊は
I'm a sucker for that. Really, I am.
囚われ続けるというわ。お友達の魂だってまだあそこにいるかもしれない。実はね、黒の本ブックオブシャドウズにはいろんな魔術が書かれているの。ヨシエの使った涅槃を生み出す術の他にも反言の術というものもある。
You know, speaking of Girl Scout cookies, I have an entirely, let's see, a box about, like a box we'd use to pack clothing, right? A box about whatever that size would be, filled with nothing but Girl Scout cookies. I forgot who gave it to me. It wasn't a Girl Scout. It was like a friend. And actually, I just realized that box of Girl Scout cookies I haven't touched, and it's probably rotting inside my house right now. How long ago did I have that box? Was it a year ago? I mean, cookies are going to be rotting for a year, but they're certainly going to be stale. Anyway, Nakashima and I knew about that one all too well.
命を無理やり戻すなんて敬虔な宗教家に言わせれば神のおぼし飯に背く背徳の行為だと言われそうだけれどね。
は
Well, yeah, you can't revive people from the dead. That's pretty wrong. Kishinuma seemed a bit more confused than he probably should have been, though I suspect the look on my face may have had something to do with it. I performed that spell, the very one Aiko was describing. I took hours, failed miserably, and killed my sister. All at once, the guilt returned. I lowered my head solemnly. Aiko grinned at me, and I had this sinking suspicion it was because she somehow knew what I was thinking. Though I couldn't be sure, and I certainly didn't know how she would.
けれどそんなものはクソくらいよね。冒涜も破壊も何でも来いよ。死んだ友達を生き返らせたいんでしょ。
I mean, we already know that resurrecting the dead is incredibly taboo, and it probably, more often than not, leads to bad things. But I'm gonna ask the chat this anyway. If you were given a chance to revive a loved one, given the context of this game, would you do it? Would you go back to Oakland Elementary School, where all these vicious deaths have occurred, just to revive the loved one? Your pet dog Pookie, your loved friend Samuel Jackson, your very important family member Will Smith. These people that have clearly affected our lives. Would you risk your own life to bring them back from the dead? You know, I think maybe I would. I would go to Oakland Elementary School just to make sure that these people that have affected my lives, like Kanye West and Keanu Reeves, would live another day. Just one more day. Risking my life for those people, it really matters, you know? And that's why we're having a corpse party.
だったらあの本を探し出し
Every night
天神小学
at
校で
8 p.m.
もう一
PDT.
度あの術を行え
Thanks for Thursdays.
成功する可能性は飛躍的に上がるんじゃないかしら。
おいあんた、何無責任なこと言ってやがんだ。
New
やばい
data?
ことになったらどうすん。
Oh, dude, Angelic Gamer, thanks for following. I keep forgetting. Sachiko is for followers, and Aiko is for subscribers.
New data?
Thanks for someone won. I didn't exactly mean to interrupt Kishinuma, but quite honestly, I didn't even realize he was talking. I was too focused on what Aiko has just said, which I just didn't actually read. All you have to do is find that book and cast that spell one more time within Heavenly Host Elementary. Your chances of success will be much, much higher there. Really? That sounds so scary. You're gonna take that accursed book, the one that got your sister killed, and we're gonna do it in a place where we could all die.
あなたは知っているんですね。私と中島さんの吉江の家での失敗を。
Now, there are some characters from the previous corpse party that I do want alive again. Like, one in particular is very much a favorite of mine. But also, I think the stream chat really loved her as well. When we first streamed that game, a lot of people really felt a connection. Aiko tilted her head at me, that same wry smile creeping across her face. She'd gone from cold and emotionless to knowing and expressive in a mere instant.
あの時のことは夢幻だったと思っています。ありえないものを見て、ありえない体験をして、私はおかしくなっていたって。してはいけないこと。あんなこと。もう忘れたいの。でも現実だった。
Aiko pointed to the scar on my neck, then went on one step further and lightly brushed it with her hand. She creepily caressed my body, slowly but surely, lowering its touch until it caressed my stomach. She said, you've had very little to eat today, didn't you, Ayumi? And she
New data?
sensually looked in my eyes. I was very creeped out, but it was okay because she was pretty. I could feel that touch deep within my soul. I suddenly found myself swallowing my next breath, practically choking on thin air. God. I mean, if you change the atmosphere of this scene to something a little more saxophony, then I guess that would kind of fit.
いい？人が本来触れることすらできない。世の常識の裏側にあなたは手を突っ込んだのよ。
Good night, Luffy.
今さら逃げられると思う？
I looked I looked down again, trying my best to avoid Aiko's gaze.
私にそんなことが。
When I had started crying, I raised my head again, intent upon looking deep into Aiko's eyes as she answered my question. But she looked so blurry through my tears. I could tell that she was smiling at me with that same expression, her new standard.
そんなことって何？みんな。うんうん。何？あなたの口からちゃんと聞きたいな。どうしたいの？帰らって。よく言えました。
You know, I saw a lot of people in the chat say they wouldn't go through this again. They wouldn't go back to Heavenly Host Elementary School to revive their dear loved ones. So, logically, I agree with you, but I have a lot of respect for Ayumi to face her own fears and to actually do this. In fact, that was one of the main reasons why I started getting into horror, because I used to be incredibly scared at the smallest things when it came to horror. Zombies? Very frightening. Nowadays, not so much. Vampires? No, they were never scary. Ghosts? Ooh, spooky, right? Now, I've gotten kind of used to it because I've played a decent amount of horror games.
黒の本が生み出すのは魔女の英知が起こす奇跡よ。それは運命をもねじ曲げる力。
But the original appeal to me was to, I guess, just test myself. Can I really do this? Because I used to be really scared of all these small things.
たとえそれが
Spiders? Ugh.
確定した運命であろうともね。あなたは強力な霊能者の家系、篠崎家の末裔。日野江さんがいない今、これはあなたにしかできないことかもしれない。
My confidence was being bolstered by the minute. My confidence was being bolstered by the minute. Though in retrospect, that was likely Aiko's aim. Nonetheless, if there was still something I could do for my friends.
だけど、肝心のブックオブシャドウズがどこに行ったのかもわからないし、それに。幸子を失った天神賞には、幸せの幸子さんのおまじないではもう行けない？そうだと思います。あの学校で、菅野由紀ちゃんという女の子に聞きました。
Aiko once again placed the bluish-white Magatama stones from the box in her hand, this time fitting them together, though not quite the way they were supposed to in a lock.
そこで、これよ。それはものすごい霊力を持ってる。さすが篠崎の霊具ね。声が教えてくれたわ。これは幸せの石。幸せの石。
I leaned forward. Come on. I leaned forward despite myself. The name sent a shiver down my spine. But now that I heard it, I had to know more.
この石は2つで1つなの。これをパズルのようにくっつけて、涅槃よ、死人を迎えよと唱えれば、触れているものみんながいつでも天神小学校へ飛べるわ。
We both flinched at her chant, but Aiko just smiled. She must have intentionally oriented the stones the wrong way so the charm wouldn't activate.
戻る時も同じ。
She tossed the stone she'd been holding in her right hand into her left, where it clacked together with the other.
不思議でしょ？この子が教えてくれたのよ。この方法。
Aiko gazed longingly at the stones. She was clearly utterly enamored by them. It seemed as if they were the key factors in unleashing her newfound emotional expressiveness. But my focus was elsewhere. Without a doubt, the items Aiko now held in her left hand were extraordinarily dangerous, possibly the most dangerous, horrific objects in the entire world. However, while Aiko was sorry, I read that wrong. While Aiko was ogling them with her left hand, her right was feeling around for something in her breast pocket. She slowly removed it, producing an old black and white photograph. When had she taken that? It was the same photograph I'd seen at Makina Shinozaki's house the previous night. It depicted a young Yoshie alongside her mother and Makina.
10代だった篠崎義恵はおばのマキナのことを慕ってよく家に遊びに行っていたそうよ。世界的に有名な霊能師の家系である篠崎家。ここならとヤゴーラ教会の生き残りヤゴーラの沖縄が危険だからとマルトゥバから盗み出してきたブック・オブ・シャドウズを預けに来たんだけれど、それが揃うと危ないからと石はマキナが、本はヨシエが預かって保管することに決めたそうよ。
Ah, I get it now. Yagura Society? Martubas? I'd never heard these terms before at all. And then there was that damned Book of Shadows again. Why does this have to keep coming up?
あなたたちはあの学校から篠崎幸子を取り除いた。それによって大きな可能性が広がったわ。これまでのような一方通行ではなく現世に戻ってくることができる。この世のものではない異空間心霊スポットが生まれているの。
She dressed the ever after stones toward me triumphantly and came to make her pitch, growing more excited by the second. I was legitimately speechless. What could I say? Well, we could, try to speed this a little bit up.
わかるかしら。まさにあの場所は宝の山よ。これまで眉唾、嘘800と笑われていた霊魂の世界への扉が開いたの。世界中のオカルト研究が一気に加速するわ。私はね、商売としてあの空間へ人を連れて行くツアーコンダクターをやろうと思うの。
That's incredibly dangerous and not something you should do morally. Kishinuma and I both reacted to this preposterous suggestion with a start. She couldn't possibly be serious, could she?
ナホちゃんのブログからは片白のデータは削除したし、あの手段ではもう飛べない。行く方法は私しか持っていない。
What could she possibly have been thinking? I wanted to stop her at once. I wanted to take those stones and break them right there on the spot before anyone else got hurt.
私はね、ツアーを運営するにあたって安全を確保したいの。
I can't imagine someone would think this way.
あゆみちゃんはお友達の霊を探したいでしょ。だったらあの空間の再調査は共通の目的にならないかしら。
I mean, seriously? Making a tour of a people's... more than a graveyard, let's be honest. Aiko leaned in as she spoke. Her breath, scented with the sugary sweetness of the extravagant desserts we'd been eating, tickled my nose.
ね、あゆみちゃん。私と一緒にもう一度天神小学校に行ってくれない？本来は片白を引きちぎる方法でツアーをやろうと思っていたんだけど、こんな便利なアイテムが見つかっちゃったんだもの。これはもう運命よ。私やるわ。商売にする。
At this point, who have died? I don't remember their names, but let's see. 1, 2... Not in this current game, but about her sister, one guy, one girl, another guy. I don't remember. A lot of people have died. Aiko seemed like she was on top of the world, but that just made me all the more disgusted of her.
どうかしら。
On the other hand, she was offering me a chance to save our lost friends. And however remote that chance may have been, it stacked the odds frustratingly in her favor. I still couldn't just say yes, but I also couldn't say no. Honestly, I resented Aiko for putting me in this position. I glared at her for a moment before I said anything.
すぐに答えを出せるわけがないでしょ。考えさせてください。
I'd almost forgotten Kishinuma was there. Sudden waves of guilt washed over me. He had an absolutely incredulous look on his face. I couldn't bear to see it, so I looked away.
ブックオブシャドウズだってどこにあるかわからないし、そもそもその石だって本当にそんな力があるかもわからないじゃないですか。実際に試したわけじゃないのでしょ。
Aiko smiled. She oriented the stones so they'd form a perfect yin-yang symbol, and slid them together once again. Immediately, the stones began glowing with a bluish-white hue, and a stream of energy started to form around her.
マジかよ。
Aiko continued smiling and looked directly into my eyes.
いいわ、ゆっくり考えて。この石はもちろんまだ試していないから、どれだけ危険かわからないしね。
She slowly separated the two stones as she said this, and the energy surrounding her dissipated.
篠崎家の血筋、篠崎マキナの家で発見されたんだもの。きっと信憑性も霊言も新たかな霊具に違いないわ。
I don't know, I think intelligence is the very last thing I'd rate very highly about you, Aiko. I mean, I'm not saying you're stupid, but
ちょっと見せてくれよ。
I guess the rationale of this is just so absurd to me. The amount of risk it would take. I know you're a fan of the occult, but bringing the world to acknowledge that the spirits exist versus bringing the world into another dimension where everyone could die infinitely sounds a little bit, you know, lopsided. Hishinuma didn't wait for an answer. He grabbed the Ever After stones from Aiko's hands and began examining them carefully.
あの箱の中にこんなものが入ってたとはな。
I mean, it's a big deal, right? If you could prove the existence of the paranormal, then yes, that would be a very, very large and a very, very big deal if that were to happen in the real world. But the cost of it sounds way too high for me.
あんたさ、まさかこの石を独り占めしようなんて考えてねえよな。
Like, imagine this. Say you were a scientist, alright? All of you in the chat are now scientists. You were given the option to prove to the entire world that Cthulhu actually exists. But by proving that Cthulhu actually exists, you summon him into your world. That sounds like a really good idea, right? Let's go ahead and prove that life outside of the Earth is totally a possibility, which I do believe it is a possibility, but I wouldn't want to risk the entire Earth by doing so. Okay, so press 1 if you would do that. Press 2 if you're going to be a little bit more logical about your life. There are things. There are things in life that are far more important than discoveries of that nature. In my personal opinion.
じゃあ、お互い勝手に行けないように一つずつ持っていましょうか。
Look at these guys, dooming the world just for a little bit of fame.
わかりました。ちょうだい、菱沼くん。
ああ。
Kishinuma pops one of the stones in my hand, then slipped the other back into the drawstring pouch Aiko had brought them and closed it up. He then casually handed the pouch back to its rightful owner.
その気になったら連絡をちょうだい。そうね。サービスとしてブックオブシャドウズの捜索は私も手伝ってあげるわ。無料で。ね。
Aiko flashed us the biggest, most gregarious smile I think I'd ever seen.
あの本さえ見つかれば一緒に行ってくれるのよね、あゆみちゃん。
I closed my eyes and gave something like a half-hearted half nod, lowering my head without raising it again. It was interpreted as a yes, but I'm not sure it meant that way.
ぐっと。じゃあ、ここは私が出しておくわね。
Aiko got up and grabbed the check.
いいえ、私も出します。
I took out my wallet, and I had no desire to owe this person anything. Aiko just smiled.
それじゃ割り勘ってことで。そうそう。
Honestly, I would react the same way. I don't want to owe a person who thinks this way any money. Aiko handed her the autograph to me.
嫌だわ。そんなに構えないで。これは無料で差し上げるわ。だから安心して。
Alright. That was a very, very long discussion.
最低だよ。
I mean, it's already 10:20 p.m. We started the stream at 8.
ああ。
鈴本さんや篠原さん、森重くん、ゆい先生、みんなのことが終わったらこの石はすぐに壊すから。
ああ、その意見には俺も同感だ。両方ともぶっ壊す案だがな。
As if he'd been waiting for this cue, Kishinuma pulled the other stone from his pocket.
岸沼くん。
あの学校のヤバさも知らねえで浮かれてやがったからな。こっそりいただいてきたぜ。
You know, I don't really condone theft, but in this case, good job. No, seriously, very good job.
岸沼くん、すごい。悪い人。
緊急事態によりやむなしだ。けどよし野崎、こう言っちゃなんだが、生き返らせるとか鈴本たちのことはもう考えない方がいいんじゃないか。無茶ばっかしてお前がまた死ぬ思いするとかよ。鈴本も結衣先生も篠原も森重もみんなよ、そんなこと望んでねえと思うんだ。
でも
Oh, John, thanks for hosting, man.
そうじゃないかもしれない。
いい加減にしろ篠崎。サトシや中島がどんだけお前のこと心配してると思ってんだ。
ごめんなさい。でもお願い岸沼くん、もう少しだけでいいから私の気の済むまでやらせて。お願い。
Okay, well, we know exactly where this is gonna go.
行くよ。いいか、一人じゃダメだぞ。こっちは俺が預かっとくからな。
There are 3 Silvarios in your pool? Oh my god, I'm sorry. Good thing we fought the matchup, though.
大丈夫だ。
If you really want, since Thursday I'll be off, I can drive down to your place if you want practice. Although that's quite a drive, but I could do it for you. I turned my gaze up to meet Kishinuma's... I get it. I turned my gaze up to meet Kishinuma's. My eyes must have looked like saucers, windows into a mind full of worries. Ideas and fears spurred by this unexpected turn of events.
なんかあったらすぐ連絡しろよ。前みたいに目つぶって突っ走って勝手に死にそうになってんじゃねえぞ。俺だってお前一人くらい守れる自信はあんだからや。
Kishinuma patted me on the head reassuringly as he said this, and I had no idea how to react. Okay, so let me think. So Thursday I'm off because every night, except for Thursdays, I'll be streaming Corpse Party at 8 p.m. I'm saying that because people might forget. I would have to stay at your place, and then I would drive home in the morning, get back home, take a nap or something, and then get ready to stream again. I could feel my eyes still bulging from my head, opened as far as my eyelids would allow. I imagined how I must have appeared to Kishinuma, and was momentarily embarrassed.
んじゃ、そろそろ帰るとするか。
Oh, I can move now? There we go. Not just yet. I want to actually take a look at this. I'm curious if we could actually buy items. Items that will keep your health up. I kind of doubt it, but it might. How big is this area? Probably not that big. Can I run up here? Man, you're tired already? That's ridiculous. Can you imagine if I'm being chased? Look, I'm actually... I can't move when she's tired. Okay, but she fully recovers stamina? Okay, that's good. So, okay, we're going to do this really cheap trick. I remember running up these... Oh, you know what? Hang on. I want to try something. 3, 2, and 1. That should be it. I remember running up these stairs with Mayo Suzumoto. I can't even pronounce the name correctly. Yummy. I remember running up these stairs with Mayo Suzumoto. At the time, it never dawned on me that the legitimacy of those memories could have ever been called into question. Why would it? When you graduate, transfer or get married, you're always still able to see one another as long as you're both alive. But in this reality, it's as if Suzumoto never really existed. I wonder if the chat can read my mind. I hope they don't think I'm into idols or anything. Idols are like the scum of the earth. I mean, I met an idol yesterday when I was going to GameStop, and she told me, "Do you like anime?" And I said, "No." How could you even think of that? Because the anime shirt I'm wearing, that's racist. Just because I'm Asian doesn't mean I like anime. That's terrible. What, you think I know martial arts or some shit? I'm gonna buy this game. This guy of 5, I don't want to buy that. I don't play it on stream. Who do you think I am? I'm gonna buy a game of Call of Duty or something. I'll buy FIFA. Yeah, exactly. I'll show you. What are you thinking? Is the owner of this house happy? Obviously, they're experiencing the daily joys and hardships of life like everyone else, but do they really understand what it all means? Ha! The sign on the door reads, "Closed for the day." Well, this building has actually been vacant for years. This used to be a photo studio, I think. I don't need anything right now, not even a drink of water, even though actually I really do.
New data?
Let's go.
Tadaima.
Oh, man. It's good to be back. No, seriously, it's good to be back.
今日の変死速報です。死亡した岡部さんは背骨が折れた状態で都内のこの場所で発見され、
Another bizarre death. Okay, well, that's certainly news. A Tokyo map was displayed on the television screen, marked with 2 red dots. The marquee at the bottom provided the headline, "Sudden violent deaths remained unexplained." Without thinking, I had left the socks I'd just removed from my feet on the living room floor, and begun walking toward the bathroom. Why is it so hard to read like this? It's probably because it's so slow. This was a bad habit of mine, so ingrained within me that it had almost become ritual. Mom did well to have caught it so quickly. I grabbed my socks and left the room.
みんなの魂がいる天神症でブックオブシャドウズを使えば。
I set my bag down in my room, quickly and automatically grabbed my sweatpants and spats, and made a beeline for the bathroom. When I got there, I threw my socks into the hamper with purpose, then began peeling off my school uniform. As I observed myself in the mirror, I began to murmur,
障害反動。もしあれがまた起こったら。
Those burn marks on my neck and arms were turtle reminders of what I'd been through at the Shinozaki estate. I could clearly remember the agony I went through as they formed. I remember watching them sear into my flesh out of thin air, blood spurting from them as if I'd been knifed. I only survived because Inoue sacrificed herself in my place.
やるしかないじゃない。
Sorry, I thought I heard something. Clearly it was just me. I tried to force self-confidence into my expression. When it wouldn't come, I slapped my cheeks hard. It was I'm reading this so wrong. What am I imagining? It was in me somewhere. It just needed to be yanked out into the open. What am I doing?
あなたが頑張るのよ。
This reminds me of the class readings I had to do in college. Excuse me, you. Yeah, you there in the back. The one that's almost asleep. Read this passage from this book. Huh? Yeah, what book? The book we're supposed to be reading? You know, the one assigned for tonight? Oh, yeah, let me see. It's, Lord of the Fleas or something? Lord of the Flies, man? Why are we reading this in college? Isn't it a high school book or some shit? Oh, actually, I read it in the middle school. I lowered my head into the water ever so slightly, blowing bubbles in the water with my mouth. The pros and cons of returning to Heavenly Host were racing through my head.
奇跡の力。確定した運命に挑む力。篠崎の末裔。私がやらなきゃいけない。 みんなを生き返らせてみせるわ。ブックオブシャドウズのありかさえ分かればすぐにでも。
ブックオブシャドウズのありかだ。相変わらずずれた感性してやがんな。
You know, you're just as creepy as that guy in Twilight. I'll be very honest with you. Why do you appear out of nowhere? Why in the bath? Couldn't you have waited until I at least stepped out with my clothing on? No, seriously. This was just about the last thing I expected. I couldn't help but scream. It was that same boy who found his way into my room last time, wearing the exact same clothes. He spoke to me about once turning his head to look in my direction.
涅槃を知ったか。やっと悟ったようだな。てめえの宿命ってやつを。
He smiled, still facing away from me. It was a confident yet sinister grin.
あなた、なんでここに？
音響のまじないなんて基本中の基本だろうが。いちいち驚くんじゃねえよ。それよりもだ。忘れんなよ、それ。運命に課せられたてめえの責務だからな。その末裔ってとこ。
あなた！
あ？
警察呼ぶから！この変態！ストーカー！痴漢！
My face had to have been as red as fire by this point.
うるせえよ、この父なし女が。誰が痴漢だ。幼児みたいな体しやがって。てめえみたいな貧相な体、見ても何も面白くねえんだよ。
My head felt like it now housed all the blood from my entire body. I imagined myself white as a sheet below the neck and flashing red above it, on the verge of a megaton explosion.
いいか、
Megaton.
よく聞け。ブックオブシャドウズは
Alright, hang on.
涅槃の中に戻ってる。
Let me grab these.
てめえが篠崎家で失敗したあの時にな。
I appreciate the photoshops. Thank you.
ほら。
Megaton? Megatron? He handed me the autograph from Maiko.
いつの間にこれが何だっていうのよ。
よく見ろ、節穴女。ここだ、ここ。
I grabbed the photograph from his hands as aggressively as I could muster, then backed away slightly, putting as much distance between me and him as humanly possible. It was definitely the same picture of the little girl holding the hatchet that Aiko had shown us earlier, but I now noticed that she was holding something in her other hand too. It was a hard-bound book, around the size of a typical desk dictionary, and though I could barely make it out, there was a certain aura to it that looked an awful lot like a face.
これは
You know, I always wished I could at least just once parody Megatron's voice.
力を使いたいなら、もう一度涅槃。いや、天神小学校と言った方がいいか。すぐにあそこへ飛んでその本を手に入れろ。そうすりゃ、お前の願いも叶うだろうね。
He stuck out his hand and pointed directly at my face, then slowly lowered it down toward my abdomen. He was now inexplicably pointing at my lower body, but as soon as I started to get self-conscious, he flipped his hand over and opened it, exposing his palm. There was another piece of 10 yen gum cupped there, the same kind as before. I'm not sure why I took it, but I did, without even thinking. As soon as the exchange was made, he immediately turned toward the bathroom window, apparently preparing to make his escape.
あなた何者なの？どうして私に？
My questions seemed to stop him in his tracks.
教えてくれるの？
I wasn't about to drop my guard, especially given the obvious advantages Boy had over me. But he didn't seem like he'd come to attack me or anything. Rather, it was almost like he was trying to lead me somewhere, to show me the way.
今はまだ話せねえ。
He turned his head toward me, just enough that I could catch a brief glimpse of the eyes beyond his hood. They were ice blue in color, but gentle and sincere. He smiled once more as he leaped out the bathroom window. I was kind of dumbfounded. I had no idea how to process what had just happened.
どうしたのあゆみ大丈夫
I don't know. A random boy was in your bathroom, and he left through the window. I would have called the cops. You know how incredibly awkward that would be to find a random boy on the second story? Wait, I don't know. Is the bathroom the second story or the first story of your house? I don't know. The point is, if he jumped out the second story, that would probably be beneficial for you. But very awkward. Did you use a ladder or something to get on top of there? Probably from the first floor. Unless you see his bones crunching outside. It's kind of awkward. Mom barged into the bath, brandishing a broom. It was probably the first thing that she could find which fended off the potential intruders. Too bad she had been just a moment quicker. All I could do was squat on the cold bathroom floor and stare at her with hollow eyes. There was no way to adequately explain any of this to her. Blech. I had to get a drink of water or something. Man, this chapter does not end. It was late at night, and I still hadn't bothered changing out my school uniform. I needed food though, so I decided to hit up the convenience store on my way back home. I picked up a bottle of olives, a pack of tofu, some mineral water, and other various things to keep me going for a while.
なんだこりゃ。
I could hardly believe it. There was actually an occult section at the damned mini-mart, with all kinds of stupid stuff like spirit talisman magnets and anti-demon wards. I grabbed one off the shelf at random, looked at the company logo on the backside. PL Promotions, company, whatever. For these last 2 months since we'd gone back from Heavenly Host, it seemed like there was a real spiritual boom going all over the world. Whenever there'd be a strange death or something, the public would be all over it, downright excited about the possibility that it might be a supernatural and bleh. It was all over TV shows and magazines too, with independent researchers checking out spiritual hotspots and giving fancy new age advice to people, just to boost ratings or sales. And now, this exorcism merchandise? Next to pre-packaged cupcakes and ready-made dinners?
コンビニでお札が買える時代かよ。ちょっと前までなら、こんなもの見ても気持ち悪いって笑えたんだろうけど、こんなの本物相手に聞くのかよ、なんて思うようになるとは。
The item I was examining happened to be one of the spirit talisman magnets, seemingly the last one in stock. An old lady suddenly reached around me from she did a reach around? Okay, reached around me from behind and yanked it right out of my hands. She... Okay, let's move on, please. And I just stood there, staring blankly at I don't know why I can't get that out of my head. It's so wrong. Look, you're old. I just want to end this chapter. Let's move on, you know? I want to see people dying. Koopa, you're so terrible. You just want to see people die? Yes, it's called Corpse Party, you know? Come on. Can't go back in the store. Let's see. So we ended up asking the localizers if it was okay to stream, and they all said okay, so I know that much at least. There was previously, from what I understood, a what was the word?
何してんだこんな時間に。家に帰ったんじゃねえのかよ。
I guess I'll call a media censorship of the game past chapter 4, but that was during the Japanese release. I want to say they stopped it. But like I said, we've already asked the localizer, and they said it was okay.
ごめんね。こんな遅くに。アルバイト？
Okay, I'll contact you later.
ああ、今日は遅番だったからな。で、まさかずっと待ってたのか？なんか悪かったな。
平気。
It was actually a really chilly night. I could see Shinozaki's breath dissipating around her chin, short, frequent bursts.
平気じゃねえだろ。震えてんじゃねえか。嫌じゃなければ寄ってけよ。シャくらい出してやる。
My room was on the second floor of the apartment building. I hadn't been expecting guests, but I just tidy up for my own sake a little while back, so it was fairly presentable. Shinozaki immediately sat down on my bed and began sipping the tea I made for her. She was holding it in both hands, probably less for politeness and more just to warm up.
美味しい。
変だろ、妹がいつも送ってくんだよ。いい茶葉らしい。
The sound of a large truck driving by seemed to catch her off guard. She was clearly a bit jittery, and surprisingly, all things considered.
こんな時間まで工事してるんだ。
ああ、年末近くになるとこういう意味のない工事増えるな。うるさいわ、眩しいわで寝れやしねえよ。
大変。
Time passed us by at a snail's pace. Shinozaki continued to sip her tea, never once removing her either hand from the warm blah 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 blah. I'm gonna get a glass of water, okay, guys? I'll be right back. I can't even read basic English sentences. Whew, man, I don't think I was so parched. But now, everything feels much better. I had like 3 cups of water right there. She definitely had something on her mind. Something had happened. It was written all over her face.
親に断ってきてんのか？
ううん。あ、連絡は大丈夫。
そうか？
I dreamed about this before, but never thought it would actually happen.
なんだな。
ん？
いや、どうしたんだよ、こんな遅くに。なんかあったのか？
うん。
はあ？今から展示場に行くだ？
Wait, like right now? Like in this room right now? Without anyone else to help us? Without weapons? Without a gun? Without a bat? Without armor? Anything that would seriously help you survive? I was half acting, as admittedly this wasn't entirely unexpected, but, well, Shinozaki may be a lot of things, but unpredictable is not among them.
お願い。
で、この石を取りに来たのか。
I took out the ever after stone I'd stolen from Maiko.
いいか、篠崎。確かにこの石はさっき光ってたし、何か力はあるかもしれねえ。だがよ、もう一度あそこに行ったところで何をどうできるんだ？
This is a terrible idea. At the very least, get something to defend yourself, you know?
また出られなくなって、下手したら今度こそ死んじまう。 そうなりゃここでのお前の存在まで消えちまうかもしれねえんだぞ。
I tried to be as strong and commanding as I could possibly muster. I needed her to realize what a bad idea this was.
私の存在なんていい。それよりみんなを救いたいの。
救う？
黒の本、ブックオブシャドウズのありかが分かったの。
さっき言ってたあの本のことか。
見て。
She had that dotograph thing from Echo with her and was pointing to the little girl's left arm.
私たち実はもうさっき見えていたのよ。この女の子の左手のところ、それがブックオブシャドウズよ。
本か、確かに持ってるな。それでこれがブックオブシャドウズだっていう確証はあんのかよ。
ないけど、でも多分間違いないと思う。
Well, Mikey, you have a point. But, I mean, in previous corpse parties, they weren't all ghosts.
多分ってお前。
天神症へはね、この本を取り戻しに行くの。そしたらみんなの魂を涅槃から解き放てる。鈴本さんたちを今度こそ生き返らせることができるわ。
How could I argue with that? There were so many assumptions being made, but she was so sure of herself, so certain that this would work. She wasn't about to listen to reason. Yeah, reason. You know, like this is a really bad idea. Shinozaki shook her head furiously, like some sort of violent shudder. It almost seemed like she was trying to shake something loose from her mind.
つか、そもそもこんな石で本当に天神症に行けるのか？あの女、庭愛子だっけか？どう見てもうさんくさかったぜ。
それは試してみなきゃだけれど、でももしまた天神症に行けたらみんなの魂がそこにあるんだから、今度こそ反魂の術が成功すると思うの。
篠崎。
She still had deep scars all along her arms, legs, and neck. Anyone could tell at a glance that she just recovered from a serious accident. She sounded so self-assured, so self-confident, but it was hard to take any of that seriously. This was the first time in my life I found myself tearing up over someone, and not being embarrassed that I was crying. Honestly, it surprised even me how deeply I cared about Shinozaki, and how much I just didn't want to lose her. My eyes were getting hot and glazed, and I felt utterly helpless.
こんなこと誰にも話せないけど、あなたは信じてくれる、岸沼君。
I was at a complete loss for words. I found myself literally scratching my head, trying to come up with a good answer. This was Shinozaki, and she had come to me for moral support, for encouragement, for peace of mind. It was really the first time she'd ever truly relied on me, ever truly counted on me. I knew then what I had to do.
もうよ、あのクソ学校であんな目にあって帰ってきたんだ。今さら何があっても驚きゃしねえよ。お前が言うんならきっとそうなんだろう。理解はできないけどな。できないままに俺は決めたことがある。
決めたこと？
ああ。何があってもお前を守るってよ。
Shinozaki and I stared into each other's eyes for a moment, each of us trying to figure the other out.
心配すんな。大丈夫だ。
I tried to force a smile. Shigonzaki had basically curled up into a ball at this point. Her tiny body collapsed in on itself for support. But now, all of a sudden, she unfurled herself and glared at me. I couldn't tell if she was mad or happy, or what. Her eyes were either like daggers or saucers. I couldn't really make out which. Maybe she'd come here expecting me to actively shoot down her idea or something. Maybe she thought she'd be alone in this. Maybe she figured out what I was up to. Or maybe she'd been expecting me to say exactly what I said to her. And maybe it annoyed her. Either way, tears began to explode from her eyes, so quickly that red bags were forming under them, almost instantly. She then turned her back to me, all one seemingly unconscious spin of her body.
どうした篠崎？
あのね、昼間私の頭ポンポンってしたでしょ。
She seemed like she was trying her hardest not to let herself cry, though it wasn't exactly working.
んなことしたか？
した。あれだけど。
She paused, seemingly waiting for me to answer, but I had no idea what to say, and absolutely didn't want to say the wrong thing, so I just stood there like a dolt.
やっぱり覚えてないなら。
Finally, she turned back to face me, her tears mostly dry. Still a little self-conscious about crying, though, she kept her eyes closed, a telltale frown belying her confidence. There was obviously something between the lines for me to read here, but hell if I knew what it was.
ああ。お前の持ってる石の片割れ。
うん。
Shinozaki removed the ever-after stone from her pocket and placed it squarely in my hand. This sounds such... like such a bad idea. I don't know what to say. I can't believe we're doing it this way, you know? Without any protection, in a room alone together. I mean, shouldn't we, like, at least try to get to know each other a little bit better? I mean, I guess we do know each other. We did survive a heist, well, yeah, a school full of ghosts trying to kill us, but couldn't we just slow it down a bit? I don't know, maybe talk to our friends, talk to our parents, discuss marriage after this? Sounds kind of like we're doing something else, but you know what I mean. Outside my window, I could still hear the sound of construction vehicles driving by. It was now or never. In as close to one solid motion as I could manage, I opened my window and chucked the 2 stones out into the road. I timed it perfectly, and my aim couldn't have been better. Another truck was just about to pass by, and the stones were immediately in its path. The sound I heard next was a satisfying crunch, with the sound of delicate, glass-like rocks breaking into tiny pieces. As far as I knew, I was now infertile. I could no longer, even if I tried, to get closer to Shinozaki. This was how I would prove my manly... Okay. Alright. Shinozaki had rushed over to the window and directly witnessed the fate of the ever-after stones. As soon as the truck drove over them, she collapsed to her knees. I couldn't even finish my sentence before Shinozaki's palm slapped my face with an incredible force. The loud smack of flesh on flesh echoed throughout the room. The side of my face was immediately in pain. I began rubbing it with my hands as I looked into Shinozaki's eyes. Her face was full of tears and her nose was running. She was breathing so heavily, her shoulders were bobbing up and down. She was absolutely hysterical of rage. It was my turn to fire back now. I was certain I'd done the right thing. You know, as much punishment as you're taking for this man, I will say that you have done, in my opinion, the very right thing. Let's not go back there, you know? I know this game is called Corpse Party. I know there's a lot of dead people on the cover and the back of the cover, but there's probably smarter things to do right now than sacrifice our lives for our friends. Want to play a video game? I mean, I have Netflix. We could, I don't know, reenact a scene from your favorite movie. We could go out to dinner at 10:56 p.m.
アホってお前。
お願い、どこ？
Okay, so if gaming logic makes any sense to me, I'm assuming that if I piece these stones together, I will be very ready to party, so to speak. Let me guess, they're not actually broken.
無事だったんだ。トラックに踏まれたのに。
Of course. Of course.
当然だろう。ただの石じゃねえんだ。
あなたは。
Hey, welcome back.
手段を手に入れたな。論から手段、次に実践だ。進め。貪欲に貪るように邁進しろ。
Okay, Ayumi, you know, I like you as a character. Legitimately, you're really cool, you know? But if there's any smart decision you need to make right now, it's not to go alone. Definitely not to go alone.
お前はもう飛べる。パンピーどもを超越する世の断りに手を突っ込むことのできる人間
I
だ。
mean, if you are gonna go alone, and you shouldn't, but I don't know. I guess we want to see this happen. Of course we want to see this happen. That's the whole point of the game.
教えてよ。味方なの？
篠崎。
菱沼くん。
I don't know, it's kind of like, I guess, action films. You like the main character, or at least you try to, or maybe you aren't meant to, depends on how it's directed, but the point is you like a character, but they're put into exhilarating, action-packed scenes, but they have a chance of dying. I don't want this character to die, I just want him to survive. You know, and be happy. It's kind of like Bruce Willis. Sort of. It's a little bit mean in the first movie, but kind of why I liked him.
比べて。こいつはクズだ。
I'm talking about Die Hard.
は？なんだよお前。
Man, it's absurdly cold in my house right now. It's kind of fitting, but should I turn off like the AC or something? Why is the AC on at night? Of all the things, is really? God, it's freezing.
篠崎、渡すんだ。
いや。
ダメだ。行くんじゃねえ。何度死にそうになれば気が済むんだよ。
いや。
渡せ。
いや。
野生犬だ。歩み、味方かと聞いたな。その通り、守るものだ。俺はお前の姉、日の絵の世話になった一番弟子、矢後浦教会のキリアミストだ。
Huh.
お姉ちゃんの。
いい子だ。会場のワードは覚えているな。さてと、それじゃあ実践といこうか。
Alright. Terrible idea. Activate.
俺にしっかり捕まってろよ。あとほら、お守りだ。なくすなよ。
Hmm. Okay, so I don't need to remind you guys this, but decision making is gonna be pretty important for Corpse Party. So let's try to make sure not to lose that cube.
ごめん。もう心配しないで。
篠崎。
お前は正しくパンピーの道を生きてろ。
やめて。
New data?
Yo, Junk Serval, thanks for following, man.
涅槃よ。死人を迎えよ。
篠崎。マジかよ。篠崎。篠崎。くそ。なんでだよ。くそー。
Oh, welcome back. And so it begins.
ここは
Okay, let's get real here.
この匂い。この空気。
Alright, now I can finally die. But how I play Corpse Party is I don't purposely try to die because that takes away attention. I want to try to live as long as I can. That means every decision matters. Okay.
天神書だわ。あれミストさんどこあ幸せの石ないどうしようあれはミストさんがそんなあの石がないとあの石がないと帰れないわ
Wow. Great. Okay.
ミストさん私またこの学校に一人ぼっち
Okay, so the obvious goal is to get those stones back. Although, I mean, we're here finally.
そんなそんなことないよきっとどこかで合流できるわ前だってそうだったもの
Okay. What the f- Jeez, man! Not like that! Oh. Jeez. Hi?
あれ
Let's see what it says. Oh, cool. Great words.
お前ザクロ
Well, on the bright side, these ghosts look kind of cute. I mean, that will dampen out the horridness. Horridness? That's not even a word, Koopa. Or the horrifying elements. Horrorness? Okay. Okay. First, let's save. There's not a save. Oh, that's right! That's right, I forgot. You have to find a save point. Okay. Well, lights on. The horrible things written on the blackboard are glowing so brightly, they almost seem to be backlit. Even with Sachiko gone, the malice remains. There are large quantities of long black hair stuffed into the cabinet. If one of the mods could type an exclamation point tweet, now would be a good time. In fact, since the game is now truly beginning, if you guys want to help us out as well, just, retweet the stream or tweet out yourself. Bring your family members to watch the stream. You know, your little brother, the one that's scared of everything? Yeah, that'd be a good one to bring. Okay, don't just... I have to remember that I can't waste light or my stamina. Okay. Nothing here. Alright. Jeez, man, really? I mean, it doesn't help that I have headphones on, because I can definitely hear everything very loudly. Okay, so things are definitely different. Actually, I should leave a message for him. Let's see. You're using your cell phone to bring light out? You know, oddly, that's kind of fitting for what I do here, because my whole house is dark, and I promised myself during Corpse Party I wouldn't use a single source of light other than the things that you see around me. And this flashlight. This one right here. There we go, good. Definitely this one.